Welcome to Power Up's Ask a Health or Fitness Expert podcast, where we have a variety of guests that volunteer to share their love of health or fitness products or services that are all things good for us. A quick disclosure, this podcast will contain our opinions, our thoughts, our tips, our suggestions, but they're just ours. My honorary guest every week, Jake Weeks, is here to talk about power of positive thinking. I have some positive thoughts right now. How about you, Jake?
Really positive.
Right. So where do you want to start? Here's what I think. When I think of fitness and health and positive thoughts, I think, all right, so I've got to go to the gym today. I want to go work out. What are some positive thoughts that I can have that will motivate me to go work out? So what I would think of is what it's going to feel like after I work out. I love the energy that I have when I'm done. I love the feeling of accomplishment. I love how my body feels. It's just a boost of energy, and I also often tell my clients, think about how you're going to feel afterwards. The whole leading up to it, heck yeah, I have 999 thoughts of why I shouldn't. But keeping those positive thoughts front and center, I think make a huge impact on following through with what I know is going to benefit me in my health journey. How about you?
I think it's really important, and sometimes I guess I'll use the inverse where I'll try to avoid negative thoughts that I know will be coming if I don't do my workout, or if I, back a year ago when I was trying to quit drinking, how I'd feel if I had a drink, and I would have to mentally prepare myself. This is how you're going to feel if you wake up after having drank, I think that the power of positive thinking is something that's a lot of famous, successful people talk about it. There's been books written about it, the law of attraction or the power of intention. There's a million books, and you can call it a million different things, but I think it's really important. And I think that for the scientists in us who are just like, how are positive thoughts going to get you anything tangible? Like, I think quantum physics is actually like providing some mechanisms for how thoughts might tangibly affect like matter and energy outside of our direct brains and skulls. So to me, there's scientific reason to believe in the power of positive thinking, and that positive thoughts can have a tangible effect. Besides just the inner motivating effects, I think there is a scientific benefit. As far as the inner motivating benefits go, I think it's hugely important. I remember this story from this fighter, Tito Ortiz, who was a successful light heavyweight years ago, and he was trying to make a comeback, and he ended up fighting this guy who was an up-and-coming contender, and he was a big underdog, and he ended up winning that fight. And the one thing he really credited for how was he changed the way he thought about it. And before he had gone and switched camps and got with this other group of guys, he was typical fighter, typical athlete, telling himself, you suck, you're so weak if you can't, run up that hill or lift those weights. And these guys, having learned that he talked to himself like that, were like, you can't talk to yourself like that. You need to talk to yourself kindly and be encouraging and say, you got this, you're the man. And he said he made that shift, and this is in his 30s. So, I mean, he's had decades of doing it a different way, and it had worked for him. I mean, he got as far as you can go. And yet this was able to get him back into fighting and rejuvenated his career. And it was all the way he thought. On another fighter story, I saw Mike Tyson went, and he was a guest coach on a UFC fighter show, and George St. Pierre was asking him, he was the coach, and he asked him, how do you, how are you so good? What can these guys do? And he didn't talk about training techniques. He didn't talk about anything except confidence. He just said confidence. It's so mental, and you have to believe you're going to win before you win, or you can't win, especially at those highest levels. If you don't think you're going to lose the weight, if you don't think you're going to put on the strength and muscle, it's almost impossible to do it no matter how hard you work. You really have to believe it. And you have to be kind to yourself, and you have to talk to yourself in a way. Even when I was talking about the negative inverse benefits of not thinking negative thoughts tomorrow, even then I think it's important to not beat yourself up. Oh, you drink again, how stupid. But maybe to wake up, and if I had drank, say, look, I can do it today. I did it yesterday, but I can do it today. And constantly have those thoughts, always be positive. Like you were talking to one of your kids or someone you really cared about who was feeling down on themselves, and you would never pile on. And you've got to treat yourself that same way. For some reason, we have a double standard with the way we talk to ourselves versus how we would talk to anyone else that we care about and want to make feel better. So I really encourage everyone to do that. And that's something I certainly could do more. I have a tendency, and I think most of us do, to be my own worst enemy. What do you think? I mean, is there certain positive thoughts or change in your thought processes that have helped you significantly?
Well, here's something too that I agree with everything that you just said, is how we do one thing is how we do all things. And if we maintain as much as possible, because those negative thoughts bubble up with all of us, right? But if you can invert or flip it, create some positive thought phrases. In fact, I have about a dozen of them printed off and taped in the back of my medicine cabinet, and I look and read them every single day. And they're all I am statements. But I believe the thoughts that we have show up in other ways, meaning that having positive thought patterns and being positive internally is also going to show up in how you are perform in your daily activities and how you interact with people. And it will also attract other positive people to be around you. I feel like if your thought patterns, if you let them take over into a negative area, it will show up in your facial expressions. It'll show up in your work. It'll show up in road rage. It'll show up in so many different ways that it will also attract those that are in negative thought patterns or loops as well, and they're stuck. So finding a way, because we all have those negative thoughts that bubble up, but limiting them and having tools and practices that, whether that be meditation or working out or whatever, to get yourself in a positive frame of thought, I think is really, really important. One of the things that I do every morning is I try to wake up naturally every morning. I have alarms set way out where, worst case scenario, if I oversleep, it'll wake me up. But 99% of the time I wake up naturally, and I flip on, put my headphones in, roll over and listen to some positive podcasts, or some talks that I have recorded or saved on my phone that are all just so uplifting and positive. And it just gets me really excited. It's almost like my first cup of coffee in the morning. I just love that. And I've actually only been doing that consistently for about a month now. And I find it's like a jolt of energy. It's that coffee, without having the calories. But it really sets my morning. And I love having that kind of be the base, the foundation of my day. And it's all positive. It's an inspirational, motivating thought process. But yeah, I do believe it attracts others that have the same thought patterns. And like I said, it might show up in your facial expressions. I know it has to, in your body language, how you're thinking and what you're going through. And you're right, if your thought patterns are negative and things that you wouldn't want to say to a 5-year-old, if you're stupid, you could do better, why are you such a loser? You wouldn't say that to a 5-year-old. So why are you saying it to yourself? If you are having those thought patterns, I have a process that I go through with my clients all the time, reversing that, flipping that. I give them the tools on how to work through that. And I'm happy to do that for anybody watching this. Reach out to me. So, things that are maybe playing in like a record over and over again in your mind. You can't lose weight. You're a loser. You can never, you never finish anything you start. Stuff like that that's bubbling up. I have ways to break that down and get to the root of it, and then give you the tools on how to overcome those thoughts, which is really, really fun and a beautiful process to watch people go through it. But yeah, I'm happy to offer that to anybody watching this for free. Just reach out to me. I'll leave my link below. But yeah, thought patterns are really, really important. And I think that we just naturally, inherently, probably a lot of things from our past. I do know that is where sometimes I get stuck into this loop. It's some stuff that comes up from my past. And it actually usually stems from about when you're about 5 to 7 years old.
I mean, that's pretty interesting. I think we definitely like internalize every negative comment we ever heard from our parents or from our peers, you know. And so when we screw up, we talk to ourselves just like those most negative comments. Like one I tell myself all the time is, God, you're an idiot. I'll say to myself whenever I make some dumb mistake, you know, even if it's a small mistake. And I realize how damaging that is, but you know, it's really hard to change. But I think the best way to do it is at first, and I just heard a psychiatrist talking about this, how to break addiction. But the first thing you got to do is just be, and it is an addiction. It's like a process, you know, you can't help but be in the same habits, and you talk to yourself the same way you talk to other people your whole life. Most cases, it's hard to change. But the first thing you have to do is be aware of it, catch
Mhm.
yourself making those comments to yourself and say, okay, that's me being negative again. And then have a conscious replacement, whether it's just tell yourself something or you just take a deep breath and cease your thoughts or something. And that's where meditation really does come in. And meditation doesn't have to be like you in a candle and lotus position. It's just being aware of your thoughts and trying to control them, really is what it comes down to. And it can mean starting your day off by having a place where you sit for just a couple minutes, take some deep breaths and say some positive affirmations to yourself, or people call it prayer, or, you know, you can
Yeah.
just have mantras or whatever. To me, it's all basically the same thing, as you're kind of putting this energy out there. Um, I think that helps a lot. And I think that's really good advice. And there's so many apps now. I don't use any, but I think there's a Calm and a Headspace and lots of other ones, and websites with affirmations. And there's some great people out there doing some great things to make this accessible to people. I like Deepak Chopra is a good guy for this kind of stuff, but there's so many just self-help people that are out there trying. And if you need something like that, you know, start there. That's an easy one because they'll have it set up for you just to do a couple minutes, you know, and they are designed for people who are busy and are just trying to squeeze it in. And just like we talked about habits last time, just build a little bit. Take 1 or 2 minutes every day in the morning, or try to catch yourself, you know, every time you're mean to yourself, and at least say, that was a moment, you know, that's a good start. And then once you can acknowledge it, then you can start to work on it.
Right. Yeah. Calm. You get the first week free. I did that once. And I really liked it. It actually was interesting to see where my mind goes, like trying to really pull it in. But yeah, my mind, I'm like, okay, calm down. Yeah. But it really, I really like the app Calm, although I just did the free 1 week and didn't go after that. But I do know several of my clients and my daughter that uses Calm and loves it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it creates a lot of strength and power to bring down your thoughts and be in the moment and be mindful. It does take practice. Like you said, you know, maybe just even a minute a day, you know, just carving that time out, creating that space and learning how to do that. And it brings a lot of peace. But yeah, for sure. I have discovered some deep thoughts that I've had that are bubbling up now in my life, and it probably on the daily basis, but it really stems from where you are and what you're dealing with at the age of between 5 and 7. It's really, really a critical age. You know, being in a situation that wasn't ideal, and as a child in that age range, I was really a scared person and little human being, terrified, scared, not feeling wanted or feeling, you know, like belonging. And I find that those feelings, you know, not necessarily exactly come up like that, but I do things as a result of having those feelings when I was 5 or 7. So, um, for that, for instance, of not feeling wanted or not feeling safe, it takes, when I do feel those feelings or notice that, it's a matter of taking time out, you know, taking 5 minutes and just reassuring myself that everything will be okay, you know, and just having those thoughts, like talking to a 5-year-old, you know, talking to your own 5-year-old self and saying, you're safe, you've got food on the table, you've got a roof over your head, and everything will be okay. So, you know, it is interesting what impacts our lives at such a young age, but that's such an incredible age if you think about it. You know, you don't really remember a lot before the age of 5, but it's at that 5-year-old phase, like, so it's such a
I've,
major point in our lives that impacts us forever.
There's some interesting research that came out recently that was saying that kids' ability to converse, and their ability to dialogue and think critically really is developed a lot between those ages of 5 and 10. And parents talking to their kids, and having meaningful conversations and encouraging their kids to be articulate and think can really be crucial to how they develop for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
There's also some interesting research and a theory that came out that basically all your thoughts are your attempts, as a child to talk to your parents and talk to people. So, and that makes sense. That's why they're so conversational. And I don't know about you, but I'll find myself like talking to myself and being different points and like actually my mouth's moving at times. And I'm like, okay, I am having a conversation with myself in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always think like I have that devil and that angel too, like, do I do this? Do I do that? And, here's, but.
Right. And usually those aren't like voices in your head that you need schizophrenic medication for or anything like that. That's normal.
Okay, good.
The voice in your head can sound differently and it can be mean and it can be uplifting, and your job is to try to control it and encourage the uplifting parts and discourage the negative parts and use it to fight your emotions or to work with your emotions to make them more positive. Because I think what happens a lot of time is we get like this ball of stress in our stomach or something makes us upset, and then you start having thoughts about it. Oh, this sucks, I hate it. And then that creates more of a feeling of stress. And so it becomes this feedback cycle between your thoughts and your emotions. And you feel like, oh, I'm always stressed, I'm always anxious. Sometimes you just got to interrupt that feedback cycle and have some positive thoughts and positive emotions, and it'll start going the other way. It'll snowball the other way. And a lot of people will use drugs and chemicals, to control those chemicals in our brains that give us these emotions and probably spur these thoughts. But what's so cool about the brain is you don't need outside drugs. Like you can use the front part of your brain, the frontal lobe, the thinking part. You can use your thoughts to accomplish the same thing that these medications do. They're proving it, that you can actually increase or decrease the amount of cortisol and serotonin and dopamine that's firing off through your thoughts. You don't need to take pills to do it. So I always tell the kids in my life, the biggest thing you can do to make yourself happy and successful is become a master of your thoughts and your emotions. And it is extremely difficult to do. They say this in poker, it takes a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. It's extremely difficult to do, but you can do it any moment, so there's like this great hope. And yet we all know, like, who controls their thoughts and emotions all the time? Who doesn't lose their cool?
Yeah.
The best amongst us, the most successful and happy people. So that's, I think, a really worthwhile goal.
I'm pretty fortunate to be able to work mostly from home. And Tux, some of you watching this might know who Tux is. He's my Boston Terrier. He's a character. He's more cat than dog, but I kind of wish I would have called him Dopamine. But he is. I truly, I'll take a break and just go up to him and like, give me a hit of dopamine, and we just play and be silly for a few minutes. And it's just to kind of, take your brain and give it a break from whatever intense learning or education or work that I'm doing, and just go and just be silly for a moment. And I enjoy that process. But yeah, it's about knowing how or when you need a break and relax and make a space of time to do what it is that you need to do to just kind of ground yourself, be in the moment, utilize your senses, your sight, your smell, your touch, your, feeling things and tasting things or whatever you need to do. But, and a lot of people will bring up, my bodybuilding that I do, and they think, oh my gosh, the workouts have got to be horrible and miserable and painful, or, oh my gosh, that eating is, something I couldn't do. Really, if the hardest part is the mental game. The mental game is the hardest, and keeping positive thoughts. And what really motivates me and keeps me going is, the messages that I get that, oh my gosh, you inspire me. Man, that's like enough fuel to last me about 10 days, when I get a message like that. Because it is there are those, the world starts getting smaller and smaller and darker because you're just dealing with, the rigid routine and the things that you've got to do to get to that level. But when you get those messages, it opens right back up. It helps you stay on that positive thought pattern. I can do this. And visualizations, which you kind of touched on with the boxing or whatever, visualizations are really, really important as well. I believe in sports or maybe getting a job or doing a presentation, all these things, positive thoughts, positive visualizations, doing, whatever it is that you're about to do that's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, there's great science behind visualization and prayer or affirmations or whatever you want to call it. To me, it's all the same thing. It's putting that positive energy out into the universe. And there's great science behind just learning how to quiet your mind and meditate, basically. Some of my favorite techniques, just real quick for that, are if you ever get angry or stressed out or something, you can just start by breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. That's a very popular one. There's this method of breathing called Wim Hof. This is a crazy guy. We'll have to talk about this sometime, but he would go under the ice in Norway as a teenager for minutes at a time. And he taught himself this crazy breathing technique where you breathe in as hard as you can, basically, and then you just relax your breath out. So you're oxygenating yourself. And that's a fun way to meditate. Once you kind of get your thoughts a little bit controlled, you had mentioned this earlier, but you expand your awareness to like your sights and sounds. And I feel like that's a big point of meditation, is not only to like be aware of your thoughts and then let them go so they stop bombarding you, but then become aware of what's right in front of you, the present moment. Every moment is unique. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the way your body feels. So some popular techniques are to like imagine your body as one energy, and feel it all at the same time. So these are just some easy ways, and you can tell they're just basically catching your awareness, realizing that you're aware of being aware,
Right.
and then expanding that awareness. There's a philosopher, and I can't remember his name. I was going to look it up, but I didn't get around to it. But he said, "You are what you think," and I really believe that. And I think it's so important. It's not taught in schools. They are increasingly teaching mindfulness because the science is so overwhelmingly behind it. But no one's really standing around banging the drum about how important it is. My parents didn't talk that much about it. You'd hear the power of positive thinking, but it seemed like something the Care Bears said,
Ooh, you just dated yourself.
I think my bald head and the wrinkles and the gray hair dated myself, but
I know about Care Bears too, so here we go.
we're
Oh, your mic went off. There you go. Better.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We're fitness professionals, but I say this to the kids I coach, like this is just a vehicle to make yourself happy. Like I'd rather be 800 pounds and be happy than be in the best shape of my life and just not feel good on the inside. So to me, it's all a vehicle for happiness, really. So the more we can use exercise, to teach us about discipline and controlling ourselves, or I like to use exercise as a sort of a forced meditation. Like if you go play a basketball game or you go rock climbing, or you're in the middle of just dancing your butt off to music you like, and you're just so focused on that, it's really hard to think about all the stuff that might be stressing you out or bothering you. And it's just an easy way to get present, let those thoughts go. And then you realize I don't have to like be that thought. I am what I think, and I don't have to be that thought. I can be just in the moment, dancing, rock climbing, something. And sports is probably the best way, in my opinion, to get that forced meditation in a sustainable way. Some people just get so drunk they can't think anymore, or just take ecstasy, whatever it is, and that obviously isn't sustainable. Meditation and controlling your thoughts is highly sustainable and encouraged.
Absolutely. Go for a walk, clear your head. If you go work out, any kind of workout, I don't care what it is, put the phone down, stop going on social media, stop doing, I mean, if you're working out and you've set a rule or a goal that says, I can only watch this Netflix series while I'm walking on the treadmill, that's fine. But what I'm suggesting is unplug from the world for 5 minutes to an hour, whatever it is you're doing, but unplug and really just be present. I can't tell you how many times I've worked out and had sound canceling headphones on and nothing playing. I just wanted to work out and be in my own thoughts, sort things out in my mind, and not hear the sex noise, grunting noises of the gym, but just be in my own self. And the headphones are kind of like the whole don't talk to me sort of thing. I'm trying to, focus or whatever, and some people are probably listening to rap music or whatever, who knows what's jazzing them up. But for me, sometimes it's just being present and with my thoughts. So that's definitely something I think. Another thing too is if things are really spiraling out of control, get a piece of paper out and start writing down all the things that you're grateful for. And my challenge to you is find 100 things that you're grateful for. So keeping the list really detailed. Don't say I'm grateful for my family. Say I'm grateful for and name each person. Just really, really dive deep and getting into, real fine details of the things that you're grateful for. And it really can help ground you as well. I like that as a fun technique too.
This is going to sound a little maybe morbid, but one thing I think about when I get bummed out is I think about, first of all, I don't live in a country where there's, you're allowed to, I live in a country where I'm allowed to speak out and I don't have bombs dropping all around me.
Yeah.
We've moved past that point in our animal history where, our brothers and sisters, we'd probably have a good chance of watching them be eaten alive by some giant predator. Like life is pretty good for humans. It's still dangerous. It's still scary. At the end of the day, we all die. So there's this giant overhang of sadness, kind of based on that alone, but we're really lucky. And life is good for humans and life is good for us here in America. And it's really important to stay focused on the good things in your life. You really are what you think. And I feel like that increasingly. And to me, it's becoming increasingly important to really work on my mental health. I've always been into self-help and understanding why people are meditating and talking so much about it. I need to practice it more, I think, and probably everybody does. And real quick, while we talk about it, one reason I think yoga is so popular is because it's so meditative, it's so spiritual, and encourages you to be one with the present moment. And I think people were really sort of yearning for that. It seems like that aspect of it might have been discussed more in the 60s and 70s more than it is now. It seems like a bit of a fitness craze, but I think that's a really important element of yoga and sports that we don't talk about as much.
Yeah, because yoga, you got the breathing and concentration, and you can't think. You're busy thinking about your muscles and stretching and holding positions. You don't have time to think about, what exam that's coming up or bills that are due. You're just here in that moment. You're not on your phone. I think that's great. I actually took a course, man, it's probably been 10 or 12 years ago, probably about 10 years ago, that was really incredible. It was a 6-month course. I don't remember what it was relating to, but it did pull in a whole bunch of books. Every month there was a book we had to read, a movie we had to watch, and the big long assignment that we were building up to, the final month, we actually had to write our own eulogy. That was incredibly hard. But, if life is really kind of sweeping you away or taking over your thoughts, I think that was it's a good tool, a good practice to do. And it really kind of puts you in the mind frame of how do you want to be remembered? Thinking about how you want people to remember you when you're gone, whether that be tomorrow or 30 years from now or 100 years from now. How do you want to be remembered? And thinking, how do I want to live my life today, moving towards that? Do I want to be a giving, caring, loving, nonprofit supporting person, or do I want to be egotistical and money centered and greedy and all these things? It really is interesting how it can have a huge impact on how you serve those around you or be a part of people's lives. But I did that, and it's actually something that I'm looking to offer as well as a coach in the future. I don't have a program set up for that yet, but I really found it to be incredibly moving and life-changing. But you said morbid, so that's what it came to mind.
Well, I think it's a great thing to think about, how you'll be remembered. And I think the better you are, the better the people around you will be and the better life you'll have. And I think really the key to being the best version of yourself is to be kind, and you have to be kind to yourself. And And it really is important to really try to master your thoughts and emotions. As difficult as it is, to me, that's the biggest goal we have as humans and the biggest key to happiness and success. And to me, it's the biggest message probably I have in my work that I like to send, especially to the kids in my life.
Right. Yeah, especially the children. And they are the next generation coming up. We got to pass along all of our wisdom. But yeah, definitely be kind to yourself. If you need help with that, happy to help with that. And how do we get a hold of you?
fitandhappyclub.com. I call it that because it's so important to me to incorporate the mental part of life and fitness too.
Right. Yeah. That's part of my presentation. Every presentation I do is about, I ask my audience, what is health? And most of the time, if it is an audience that engages with me, their responses are, like this sexy bikini body. And health is really not about a sexy body. I think that, I don't know if that's the media playing a role or whatever, but health has so many layers to it, and mental health is part of it. You know, what we think of ourselves and being kind to ourselves, those thoughts that we have are very, very important. So I'm glad that we had this topic, and always look forward to our podcast and going deeper.
I'm thinking positively about them.
Right.
All right, we'll have to pick something else next week that's inspiring, because I feel like this is really my most important message, you know, and I could go on and on and on about this.
Right. Yeah. Good topic.
Thanks,
All right,
Katherine.
Jake.
You too.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you so
Katherine.
much.
See you next week.
All right. Bye.